Hi, I'm Katie and I'm a travel agent, and this is my recent visit to Seattle, Washington, full of what I did and tips and tricks that I picked up along the way to help you have a great tourist time in Seattle. I was arriving in Seattle via ferry boat because this was the last stop on a larger Olympic Peninsula Pacific Northwest vacation that my husband and I took, and Seattle was the last stop. We got on the ferry in Bainbridge Island. Now, I do recommend looking up the ferry times before your visit. Have an idea of what time you want to take the ferry into Seattle. There were several afternoon times that were going to work for us, so I did not worry about buying tickets ahead of time and had no issue purchasing them. When we got there, we arrived about 20 minutes before the ferry's departure. We waited in a little bit of a line and then, as you saw, drove right onto the ferry, parked, and then you could get out. There was an observation deck at the very front as well as down on the bottom where the cars were, and there was an interior portion with restrooms, some seating, as well as a snack stand. You can also take this ferry to and from Washington and Bainbridge Island as just a passenger with no car. It's a fun day trip if you have a little bit of extra time while you're in Seattle to check out the Bainbridge Island area. And of course, there are ferries that go many different places in the Seattle area. Not only was the ferry a convenient way to get to where we were going, but it was a very fun way to see Seattle. It was almost like the skyline was just presented to us as we got closer and closer. It was a really fun view of the city, a fun way to travel, and if you get lucky, you might even see some whales on your voyage. About a 10 to 15-minute drive north of the city from the ferry dock was Cary Park, where you could get some really great pictures with the skyline behind you and some beautiful views. We also made a stop to visit the famous Fremont Bridge Troll, and parking was on the street, but at both of these places we had no issue. Then we were off to our hotel, the Homewood Suites by Hilton Convention Center, Pike Street. This was a great location, about a 10-minute walk from Pike Place Market, right next to the convention center, and very centrally located to a lot of the things that we were going to be doing. Here's a look at the lobby as well as the dining area where there was complimentary breakfast each morning and complimentary coffee throughout the day. There's also a small business center, an ATM, and there was a gym here as well. There is a self-parking garage on site that was very easy to access and utilize. Of course, keep in mind this is in the city parking prices, so that can add up. But it was very convenient. Like all Homewood Suites, all of the rooms here are suites, and they all feature a kitchen, which is one reason that I love Homewood Suites in general. This is a standard king room, and I'm going to start here in the bedroom and work my way back to the front door. All right, so here is the bedroom. We've got nightstands on both sides and a TV and a dresser here with a mirror. And we have a view of just the city. We did not pay for any sort of extra view options. So we have a view of construction, but that is perfectly fine. This hotel is located right next to the convention center, very walkable to both the Seattle Center and the piers, Pike Place Market, Aquarium, and all of that. All right, so then we have an open door here into the living area where we have basically a full kitchen. This fridge is smaller. A lot of Homewood Suites have a full fridge, but this is sort of the mini fridge, dishwasher, stovetop, a microwave, and then you've got plates and all of the cooking stuff that you might need, as well as a coffee maker. And then flip around on the other side here, we have the couch with an ottoman, and the table comes off the ottoman, so you can have a table as well. Another really big window, TV, some more drawers, and a table with 2 chairs that you can sit at, dine at. And we've got a hallway down here with a closet, complete with a safe. This is the front door. Full-length mirror here. Then turn around, here is the bathroom. Really large bathroom here today with bathtub and the commode. The hotel was also walking distance to lots and lots of restaurants, bars, and dessert places, and we made a stop at Salt and Straw, one of their several locations in Seattle and the greater Pacific Northwest area. Originally started in Portland, and it was some of the best non-dairy ice cream I've ever had, and my husband was a big fan of their regular ice cream as well. Next morning, I got up early for a run and headed down to Pike's Place Market. This was a great time to visit the market because there was almost no one there except for the people that worked there. The line at the very first Starbucks was only about 4 people long, and I was there at about 7 a.m. The line for Starbucks was quite long every other time I walked past it, so if you really want it and you don't want to wait in line, an early start is your best bet. And of course, most of the locations at the market were not open at this hour, with the exception of Starbucks, but it was a fun and easy time to see everything without a huge crowd of people, get some pictures with the pigs and some other photo ops, and just see what it was all about. We came back a few hours later around noon, and it was a much different sight. It was very, very busy, very crowded. Once you entered the market, it was pretty much wall-to-wall people. Now, what's in the market? All sorts of stores, books, flowers, all kinds of food, and they specialize, of course, in fresh seafood. There was a lot to see and a lot of shopping opportunities. And be aware that there are multiple levels, so keep an eye out for those stairs to see all of the stores. And if you want a picture with these signature bronze pigs, one is right under that main sign and one is out on the back patio.
Here, here, here.
Here's an idea of just how busy it was. It was busy. So if you have any issues with claustrophobia or big groups, get there early to avoid the crowds, or maybe even, right before closing. There were lots and lots of fresh fruits and veggies, so if you were going to utilize that stove back in your hotel room, there were lots of options for things to cook. And don't forget to look at the few streets surrounding the market, because there's lots of little stores and dining there as well that aren't necessarily officially part or in the market. If you are a movie fan, you'll want to pop your head into Athenia and see a filming location for Sleepless in Seattle, the diner scene where Rob Reiner and Tom Hanks discuss Tom Hanks' character starting to date again. And you can see these little plaques on the stools where they sat. Pike's Place Market is famously the home of the very first Starbucks, and that's a very popular location that always had a line. Arrive early in the morning to avoid that line. They did have some signature coffee blends and merchandise that was exclusive to this location. Another popular part of the market is Gum Wall or Gum Alley. If you are easily squeamish, you might want to skip this part, but it makes for some very fun pictures and is a very popular part of the market. This is located underneath the main part of the market. We had a very fun time in our several visits to the market while we were staying in Seattle. I highly recommend a visit while you are in Seattle. It's a lot of fun and a free activity. We grabbed lunch at a taqueria that was just outside of the market, and it was 100% plant-based. We grabbed it to go, and they had a very easy to-go system, and the food was really interesting, a different kind of taco than ones I had ever had before. We spent the rest of our afternoon checking out the piers and the aquarium. Now, the piers were tourist central. There was the Ferris wheel, and then a complex that had an arcade and a lot of chain dining and tourist stores. So, if you like that sort of thing, this is the place to go. If you don't, go ahead and avoid it. Totally skippable. Next up, the Seattle Aquarium. This aquarium is right on the water and it is in a really fun building. Now, it is a relatively small aquarium compared to other aquariums I have visited throughout the country, but it did have a lot of items that were specific to the Seattle Pacific Northwest area, very specialized. So that was very interesting. However, if you are not a big fan of animals or aquariums, I don't know that this is necessarily worth the cost that they are charging. We use the Seattle City Pass that I highly recommend, which is basically giving you a discounted rate of entry into all of the locations that the City Pass includes. And I really enjoy aquariums and zoos, so it was worth the visit for me. Now, if you have kids, this is also a great kids opportunity. There were a lot of options where you could interact and, in fact, even touch wildlife, and a lot of educational things going on. So, if you like that sort of thing, this place is fine. I would recommend it, but I would not prioritize it over something like, say, the Space Needle. My favorite exhibits here were actually some of the birds and mammals, so the puffins and the sea otters and river otters were really fun to watch. So worth a visit if you're a big animal fan, traveling with kids, or you're already planning on getting the Seattle City Pass. You won't be upset that you spent a few hours at the aquarium, but I would not plan to spend a great deal of time there. The size just does not really allow it. The next day, we spent our whole day at the Seattle Center. The Seattle Center is home of the Space Needle and several other attractions and museums, as well as a little bit of park and green space. You will also find some touristy booths such as face painting and snacks and food booths throughout the area, as well as the monorail, which will take you from downtown Seattle to the Seattle Center. It's also home to several theater performance spaces and a stadium and a brand new hockey stadium that is currently being built. You can also find the Science Center here. Seattle Center was created for the 1962 World's Fair, which is where the Space Needle was debuted. Today, one of the most popular attractions there is the Mopop, or the Museum of Pop Culture. This museum is dedicated to all things pop culture, so lots of movies, TV, music, and video game exhibits. It's a really exciting and different museum where everything in it is, of course, pop culture themed, and it's very different from maybe your typical art or history museum. If you've ever been to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland or been to a movie studio tour where you can see props and costumes and things like that in Hollywood, this definitely gave me that sort of vibe. So if you enjoy pop culture, this is an absolute must for you. If you are particularly a fan of the 90s grunge music coming from Seattle, they had a very large Pearl Jam exhibit as well as a Nirvana exhibit, so they are definitely reaching out to the musical roots of Seattle. The quality of the design of the museum itself was very top notch. This was one of the most immersive looking museums I have ever experienced. They really took the time and effort to make some extra themed exhibits. The fantasy exhibit, for example, looks like you're in a castle in an enchanted forest. It's very fun to have that extra layer of theming. And they had some very impressive movie and TV props They had one of the original Dorothy dresses from The Wizard of Oz. They had an original Terminator. And they also had some more current things like props from Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings. They really had an impressive collection. I will say, if you are traveling with little ones or those who are easily scared, maybe skip the horror exhibit. The set dressing of the exhibit, as well as the props, was legitimately creepy and scary. There were also a few interactive parts of several of the exhibits, most notably in the video game exhibit where you could play some video games. There was also a dining opportunity with a Wolfgang Puck restaurant and lots of shopping in the gift shop. While we were visiting, we were lucky enough that there was actually a Disney costume exhibit going on, and this was a special exhibit that's actually traveling through the country. So keep an eye on what special exhibits are out there while you're visiting. It might just be something you're really interested in, and it was an additional cost on top of the Mopop ticket to get into the special exhibit. Something to keep in mind with all of the attractions here at the Seattle Center, they all come with a cost, and a lot of times you can get combination tickets to help alleviate that cost. The Space Needle and the Chihuly Glass Museum offer a combination ticket, and the Seattle City Pass offers a ticket where you can get most of the attractions here included in one price, so you are paying less in the long run. Also, this is easily a location where you could spend an entire day if you wanted to do absolutely everything, maybe even more than a day. Next up, and right around the corner from the Mopop, we visited the Chihuly Garden and Glass Museum. Now, this location features the art of the artist Chihuly, who reached the height of his fame in the 90s for his glass sculpture work. There is both an indoor portion of the museum and an exterior garden portion. You might recognize his style from the glass ceiling at the Bellagio in Las Vegas. I am not typically one to do an art museum and to enjoy an art museum, but this was very different. The sheer size of some of the work here was humongous, and it was very, very intricate detail items, definitely pieces that were meant to be experienced in a museum, some of them that just take up the whole room. It was a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed it. They did also have a store where you could purchase some items that are made by the company, the proteges of Chihuly, who now create officially licensed work. And you could also watch some demonstrations of some items being created out in the garden. The garden itself was a really fun addition to be able to see how they could incorporate some of the glass work into nature, and it is in the shadow of the Space Needle. They also had some photography packages that you could take advantage of in the garden. I would definitely recommend visiting this museum for any adults. I think I probably wouldn't go with small children, but maybe middle school and up if they enjoy art or photography. This would be really fun. Last but certainly not least, we have the Space Needle herself, the crown jewel of the Space Center and probably of Seattle tourism, certainly the most well known. Now, you're going to want to purchase your ticket ahead of time, even if you're getting a combination ticket. Make sure you get that ahead of time, and if necessary, based on the time of year you are visiting, get a timed entry pass. This will give you an assigned time to show up in line, but you should still be prepared to wait in line. We were there on a Friday in the summer during the late afternoon, and it took us about an hour from when we entered during our assigned time to actually getting into the elevator. You will be going through security, so all those basic security rules are in place, and if you have any bag larger than a medium backpack, you are going to have to store that in a locker. The first half of the line is exterior, but it is undercover, and the second half of the line is inside. Now, once you get inside, make sure to stay to the left if you want to be able to see all of the informational signs about the history and the building of the Space Needle and of the World's Fair that it was built for, as well as some of the updates that have happened to it along the years. Now, when you get to the end of the line, right before you get to the elevators, there is going to be opportunity to take a photo with a green screen, and the photos are included in the price of your ticket. Any photo in the Space Needle. So there's going to be this photo here, and then there will be photographers upstairs as well. This is free. Absolutely take advantage of this if you see the photographers, and keep an eye out for them when you're up at the top. You are going to want to download the Space Needle app either while you're in line or before you visit to be able to access your photos. The next step is to get on an elevator where you're going to travel up to the top.
And specifically the elevator. We are going to be making our way up at 5 miles an hour for approximately 82 seconds up to the observation deck. This elevator looks south towards downtown Seattle. Now, the Space Needle was built back in 1962 to be the centerpiece for the Century 21 Age of Space World's Fair. That was held all below and around us on what is now the Seattle Center campus. It's where they debuted both the microwave oven and the touch-tone telephone to the world. The theme of the fair was imagining what life would be like living in the futuristic space age of the 21st century. Now, the Space Needle is 605 feet tall. That's about 184 meters to the very tip of the antenna. Up top, there will be 2 levels, indoor and outdoor observation deck. Head down the big curved glass staircase and you'll find yourself at the Loop, the world's first and currently only rotating glass floor. When you're ready to leave, line up at either of the 2 elevators on the glass floor level and they will take you down. Thank you and have a great time up top today.
You'll be dropped off at the very top in the interior portion, and you can go outside onto the observation deck, which has very tall glass walls for some fantastic pictures. Now make sure to walk all the way around to see all of the views from the ocean to the city, and this is the level where you will find inside the bar where you can get some drinks and you can take them out with you onto the terrace. You can also stop at the restaurant for a few snacks and sit down. There is no longer a full service restaurant though. There are just some smaller plates that you can get here. Now here's a reminder, keep an eye out for the photographers up here. They absolutely did a great job for the photos that we took, and there are also some self-service selfie stations that you can use, so keep an eye out for them on the interior side of the wall, a couple of them around the observation deck. Now, if you are not a fan of heights or crowds, this is both very high up and crowded. However, this portion does have an actual cement floor, whereas the observation deck that is one level below here has a glass floor. So if you're afraid of heights, this is a better bet for you than the glass floor observation deck. However, if you don't like crowds, the glass floor observation deck we found a little bit less crowded. So when you're ready to check out the glass floor observation deck, head back inside and then go down one set of stairs. This is also how you exit. So even if you don't want to do the glass floor, don't worry, the entire floor is not glass. You can go down the stairs and wait in line for that elevator. If you want to do the glass floor, head over to the glass portion of the floor and you will notice that you are rotating very slowly. If you are really sensitive to motion, don't worry about it. You can skip the rotating portion and stay close to the wall where the elevators are, and you will not be rotating. Now you get back on that elevator, go back down, another great scenic view, and you exit into the gift shop where there are also restrooms available. I really enjoyed the Space Needle. It was my favorite part of the Seattle Center and maybe my favorite part of Seattle. I absolutely recommend it for anyone, with the exception of if you have a really bad aversion to heights, you probably want to skip it. So that is it. That's our time in Seattle. I really enjoyed Seattle. I think it's a great vacation destination for just about any group. I think there's a lot to do. I think there are varied things to do, and it's a very beautiful location. Thanks so much for watching this video and following along. Please like and subscribe, and if you would like to go to Seattle or anywhere, I would love to be your travel agent. So just send me an email for a no obligation free quote, and thanks for watching.